And make sure I mute over here, but it does look like we are live, so we will give it a few seconds for the feed to catch up, the crew to get in, other people to come into the live stream. But it is Thursday night, and it is 7 o'clock, which means you have found your way to the CarrGuy and SixFan show. I'm your host, Grant Tommy. I am only part of the equation, CarrGuy and SixFan. I'm the latter half of the name, so Straight SixFan is my channel name, where I like to focus on offbeat hot rodding, which I describe as budget-minded, relatable, creative builds, and it is episode 7, so it's getting more and more familiar to a lot of people here on the show, and so you kind of know what to expect. But if it's your first time, this is a weekly hangout for CarrGuy channels, automotive niche channels. Chance to grow with us. Jason and I are on path to 1,000 subscribers, but we want to build community. We want you guys to figure out, learn tips and tricks from us, talk cars. But that's enough about me blabbing on. I'm going to roll it over to the other half of the equation, Jason Carr. Jason.
Yes, sir. So this is me. This is Jason Carr. My YouTube name is Old Car Auto Guys, if you did not know that already. And my channel focuses on my small town Canada used car lot, where we have projects and shenanigans and updates on cars and some projects, all that kind of good stuff. And we have a lot of fun doing that. And I really want to thank everybody for jumping in on the chat tonight. And there seems to be a lot of us in here early and having a really good time. And if you haven't checked out each other's channels, I encourage you guys to go do that now. We've got some pretty big names in the chat room tonight. We've got Twisted R Racing, Rust Belt Mechanic, Craig Durbin is here, Po Boy Diesel, Craven Cars is back this week. Thanks for coming in. We've also got Winnipeg Car Life. Shane, thanks for stopping in. Eford Garage, Terry, how you doing? S&R Motor. My goodness, I can't talk tonight. S&R Motoring. So that is Scott and Randall, I believe, and there's a few other ones that I may have missed up at the top of the channel. We've got America Bumper to Bumper. Kip is here, One Man Shop. Who else did I miss? Did we get everybody in there? I think we've got everybody in there so far. So guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for spending your Thursday evening with me and Grant.
Yeah, and just a quick reminder, our record to date is 24 people in the chat at one time or watching this live stream. So if you don't mind taking a second and going and sharing that on your Twitter feed or any social media, that'd be great. But obviously it also helps us when you hit that like button. So if you could do that, that'd be great as well. One of the members in the chat, as Jason mentioned, America Bumper to Bumper, I wanted to give Kip a shout out and a huge thanks for filling in for me last week. As I was not able to be on the show, so I think you did a good job as a guest host. So, Kip, just wanted to personally tell you thanks. And a lot of people, I had a couple people reach out to me, and they were kind of worried. Why didn't you make the show? And it was actually because I had, I think I scheduled my haircut appointment. I always do it 5 weeks in advance. And I think Jason and I had just come up with the idea of this show when I had my haircut the time before. So I wound up scheduling it at the worst time, 6:30 last Thursday. So that's the real answer. The fake answer is I had shaved my goatee off, and I wanted a week to catch up in the beard category since Jason brings such a strong beard game.
Yeah, that'll do.
Well, anyways, again, I know we have a lot of usuals in here, so you guys kind of know the format. You know how this works, but we kick it off with automotive news, automotive chat as the first part of the format. So if you are new, there you go. Now you're forewarned. But the topic we picked this week was as a one-liner, should you LS swap the world? ? And I have very strong opinions on this, but I wanted to lob it your way, Jason, first, just to kind of get your take on what you thought when you read that.
Well, so Grant and I will generally share an agenda back and forth throughout the week as we kind of fill in some of the things that we want to talk about. When I saw LS swap come up on the screen, I thought, man, this is something that we can talk about for hours. So guys, we're going to try and narrow it down to about maybe a 7 to 10 minute talk here on this LS swap thing. But man, there has never been And I'm not sure that there ever will be another series of engines that has been so swapped into just about everything and anything as the LS series of motors. When they first came out, back about almost 20 years ago now, these engines have been put in just about everything that GM has ever made. And they just seem to be so rampant. There's so many of them out there. They are the modern day small block Chevy. So everybody that used to put 350s in all their hot rods, well, they're not doing that anymore. They're doing the LS swap. So if I have to answer the question, should we LS swap everything? Immediately my answer is going to be yes. Just simply because of the availability. They're not that expensive. I mean, if you guys follow Cletus McFarlane, you know he's going to these scrap yards and getting them for $200 and $300. So, you know, they just seem to be classic. So if you're a Chev guy, for sure, LS swap likely is the way to go.
Yeah, and you did a really good job encompassing. Basically, those are my thoughts. I did want to give a shout out to Craving Cars, a local Kansas City area guy, for jumping in the chat. And I did want to say I've met probably 3 or 4 now Kansas City or Northeast Kansas area creators this week, and I want to put you in touch with another guy when I get the chance. But I do want to get back on topic. So I think again, Jason's right. We could talk about this for hours. And I think I like your comparison of, rewind 15 years ago, if you were putting a 350 Chevy and everything, that's fast forward 15 years. That's what the LS craze is right now. But he brings up a great point. It's they're super, well, the 6-bolt main architecture of them, the aluminum block of some of them, not all of them, makes them inexpensive because they were putting everything, just makes it's like, well, it literally is one of the best choices. But as you know, me being the offbeat hot rodding guy, the reason I have 6 pistons across the face of my shirt is I believe in just build what you bought. I'm a more of the purist type. I have nothing against LS motors. If I think Craving Cars made the point earlier, he's like, well, if it's a GM car or truck, why not? And I'm in line with that, and I've poked fun at myself in my last video because even though I am a purist, I'm going to put Mopar wheels on my Ford Fairmont. So there comes a point when it just makes sense. You can't fight what the most sensible solution is, but it's just getting to the point where it's just so uncreative anymore is where I'm at. And I wanted to kind of point towards an editorial that Jacob Ross Davis, he's the guy who, if you have watched Roadkill Garage, Roadkill for Forever, he's the guy who's the friend of Finnegan, who has the AMC Hornet, the green wagon, the green Hornet as they call it, which they built a inline 6 for. And he wrote an article recently that was just talking about more of the same. And it just embodies what I'm trying to do with my channel more than anything. So that's where I wanted to take the topic. I have nothing against LS Motors. I really don't. I just think sometimes I just get tired of seeing the same thing over and over. That's basically where I'm at.
Yeah, and Terry makes a good point. He says, is really not cheaper than anything else. I mean, there are a few things that you got to consider when you're doing an LS swap. Is you've got the electronics, you got the the extra wiring, the sensors, and all that stuff. If you're doing it into another non Chevrolet engine or Chevrolet body style, so there's been a lot of people out there who run into the security issues getting into the control modules and stuff like that. So there's a few things you got to look at when dealing with that sort of thing. But there's, if you read down through the chat there's a lot of guys who are saying, that they want to LS the world. So I think that when we look at the modern day hot rodding, I really am with you, Grant, when it comes to being the purist. If I'm driving a Chrysler, I want to put a Chrysler motor in it. If I'm driving a Ford, I want to put a Ford motor in it. So if you're driving an AMC, you put whatever you can. But anyways, the idea behind doing custom builds is just that you're building something for you. Don't worry what anybody else has. It reminds me of my dad when he had his 56 Mercury pickup. He put a small block Chev in it, 350. And the joke around town was that he wasn't driving a Ford, he wasn't driving a Chevy, he was driving a Chord. So, you know, a Chevrolet engine in a Ford body. So a lot of guys are doing that, and a lot of the purists will shake their heads when they see that small block Chev sitting inside a Ford engine bay, or vice versa. So.
Well, last I checked, we were up to 19 concurrent in the chat right now. That's really awesome for, you know, we're only at episode 7. So thank you guys. Couple new people joining in the show. And again, this is the CarrGuy and SixFan show you've accidentally stumbled upon. But did want to give a couple
button.
Yes, and did want to give a couple shout outs. We have, I think it's Boosted Rodeo Garage. That's a new channel for me. Haven't heard of, so I'm glad you found it. I'll have to check your channel out after the world. I think Craving Cars did a good one-liner summation of the topic, and he says he just likes to keep things in-house, and I think that's a good way of putting it. But speaking of keeping things in-house, there were a bunch of things that wound up in my house upon arriving from work. And the second part of our agenda that we typically like to talk about is channel updates. And I kind of hit the mother load today. First off, super excited. I got my new stickers, my next batch of stickers. So I am ready to start sending these out via mail. I've already got, like, I think 3 already spoken for. If you guys want to swap stickers with me, best way to do that is DM me on either Instagram or Twitter. Again, we've already shouted Kip out for filling in the co-host role last week, but I got his letter, so we will be doing a mail call before too long, which is great timing because I like to do these on the first Tuesday of the month. And then, which is funny, Kip was probably asking me that question in the chat as soon as I showed it. And then Jegs came through, and I got the replacement water temp gauge, so I can finally wrap up the ashtray gauge pod. But Jason, what is going on? What is the channel update for you at the current moment?
Well, you know, I really don't have a whole lot to talk about this week. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, because I'm super excited, and I've already been talking to some of you guys already on the chat. Kip, I've already talked to you, and there's a few others that I've been talking about. So you all know, way back, if we go to the very first episode of CarrGuy and SixFan show, one of the channel updates that I gave was that I was looking for new high-flow heads for my Cordova. And I had been putting feelers out there everywhere, and I even called Nick's Garage. If you guys don't know who Nick's Garage is, go find him. And he's a huge, huge Mopar guy in Montreal, has a nice shop there with an engine dyno and everything. And that's how I found him, was the engine dyno. Anyways, I reached out to Nick's Garage, asked about some heads. He says he's going to ask a few buddies. Long story short, I've got a set of heads sitting in Montreal right now at Nick's Garage. Nick's Garage channel has about 73,000 subscribers. And tomorrow morning, bright and early, my wife and I are headed to Montreal to pick up those heads. And I'm taking my camera so we can make sure that we have a nice little collab with Nick's Garage. And hopefully his cameras are rolling while I'm there as well. So stay tuned for that video or series of videos. It just depends on how much footage I get while I'm there. So I'm really excited about getting up to Nick's Garage in Montreal.
Yeah, and that's exciting. I actually, as late as last night, was kind of messaging back with Jason where I think I may have found my equivalent to Nick's Garage opportunity, but I'm not going to really divulge into that much because I want it to develop a little more before I share that with you guys. But some exciting times over here as well. In the meantime, finding their way to the CarrGuy and SixFan show was Low Lids X50, and then I'm probably going to not pronounce this right, but I think Ozo Lou Garage. Okay. But new channels for me, so I don't know exactly. Let's see, hide the chat for a second. 21 watching, so guys, we are 4 people away from setting a new concurrent record. So that'd be awesome if we could do that tonight.
And
so
if you haven't hit that like button yet, guys, there's, you know, we got 22 people in the room. Go hit the like button. Do it now.
Yeah, what are you waiting for? Seriously. We've asked nicely. don't make us raise our voices at you. Well, as we go down the docket, the next topic we like to always handle is to kind of talk about small YouTuber channel struggles, maybe growth hacks, tips and tricks, that kind of thing. So I'm going to start it off this week in the topic I wanted to throw out there. I started doing this, I think it was last weekend or maybe a week and a half ago, but I kind of got to thinking, your top 5 videos you have are your top 5 videos for a reason. There's probably a good chance I have somewhere over 200 videos. That if you have that much content, like there are going to be 5 that probably outpace everything else. And they're your top 5 for a reason. So why not periodically try to re-promote your top 5? So I just thought, hey, I'm going to do a hashtag share your top 5, and then use the number 5. Don't spell it out, but hashtag share your top 5 and tweet out or share on Facebook in whatever order you want, your top 5 videos. And you never know who you might pick up in that opportunity. So anyway, that's my kind of little tidbit. I can't really tell you how much that did for me, but I do know some people found their way to my channel because of that. So that's my pointer for the week. Jason, where do you think?
Yeah, so I just really wanted to share just one little quick thing. If you guys have not heard yet, this week YouTube came out with some community changes as far as the way that they're looking at videos and the way that they're going to be addressing things like community strikes and copyright warnings and all that sort of thing. So if you guys haven't had the opportunity yet, I would encourage you to go out and find channels like Creator Fundamentals, as well as Pusa Studios, P-U-S-A. And those guys are doing a lot of live feeds and a lot of information gathering for us so that we can learn what some of these things are that's going to be causing issues down the road for some people. So some of the reasons why you may get a community strike could be something as simple as if you have anything to do with guns is one of them, then you could be in trouble. If you have minors, believe it or not, in your videos, you could be getting warnings. So you want to be careful with stuff like that. But if you don't know much about it or you haven't heard the goings on, then go find out. I'm not an expert. I don't profess to be an expert in all those rules, but you've got to learn and please get in there and find out where you might be affected as far as your channel goes.
And we can leave links in the description after this, after this ends being a live event. We will leave links to those 2 channels in the description below. So, Jason, I guess the live chat is telling us that we have tied the 24 mark. So if we get one more in here, we will set a new CarrGuy and SixFan show record. Turn on your computer. Well, as we talk about and geek out to things like that, of course, that's what this current game is about. And I know Jason's connection might be struggling a little bit on his end, but we also try to give an update on subscriber count, where we were last week and where we've come in a week. So, Jason, I'll let you start and share with the group. What have you done in the last week?
Well, I've made a huge gain again this week from last week, and I didn't get any big shout outs from anybody like Rust Belt or from Snydertron 3000, but one of the things that I have been doing, and it was one of my tips last week, was to put yourself out there. Get out into some of the live streams. I see 25 people watching now. Woohoo! Get out into some of those live streams, interact with people, and that's exactly what I've been doing. And so I've been joining some live streams, meeting some new people, and finding some new channels myself. And that's where I've been doing a lot of my gaining over the last week. So right now, I think the last time I checked my phone, I was at 788. So that is up 51 subscribers from last week, where I was at 737. So guys, if you want to grow your channels, get out there and find some of these live streams, find some new channels that you like, and interact. Don't just sub for the sake of getting them to sub back, because again, that's part of the community guidelines that YouTube is against. So just make sure you're interacting and get there. So I'm hoping that maybe by within the next few days, we'll see that big 800 mark and start drawing Grant even closer and closer.
Yeah, well, and speaking of live streams, Novitaz reminding the group, he has a show, I think it's 9 p.m. Central on Sundays. I know it's always, I'm trying to get my upload done by 8:30 on Sundays, and I think it's always kind of clashes with that time, so I can't necessarily always join in. But from a subscriber count standpoint, I not at a blistering pace of Jason. I've actually lost a couple subscribers in the last 2 days. I had got up to 898, but I'm at 896, maybe even 895, depending on whose weather forecast you follow, TubeBuddy or YouTube. But that's up from 885 last week. So I'm only up 11. Maybe the last 105 is going to be my toughest. I don't know. But Get It Garage tells us we have 27 people in this live stream, which is fantastic, guys. That's a brand new record here on the CarrGuy and SixFan show. Hey, help us reach 30. We got close to 10 minutes left. And this is usually the part of the show where we open it up for, well, we've got channel shout outs to give, but we wanted to get you guys your wheels turning, pun intended, to think about questions you might have for us. I do have a topic I kind of want to reverse to lob out to a Rust Belt mechanic. Well, if you don't come up with questions, but we try to highlight one channel a week, each of us from our follower base as the channel we'd like to highlight. And so again, Jason, I'll let you kick things off with who's your channel you want to highlight this week.
Yeah, we'll get right into that, but I do see a few new names that have popped in the chat. I want to make sure we recognize those guys. So Home Guy 4x4 Steve is back into the live stream here, and James McIntyre has joined us. Thanks, James, for joining in there. And Neat Stuff, I don't think I saw him earlier, but Neat Stuff is aiming for 1,000 subscribers within the next 2 years. And yeah, so guys, as I always mention before we do our channel shoutouts, is that if you see somebody in the chat tonight that you've never seen before, I encourage you to go over to their channel and make sure you check them out. Don't just hit that subscribe button for the sake of doing it. Check out their videos, make some comments, give them some thumbs up, and interact with those channels, because that's how you're going to grow your channel, by interacting with others as well. So I'm going to get right into my channel shout out, and my channel shout out is for a couple of guys, or at least one of them is in the chat tonight, and that is SNR Motoring. So Scott and Randall have a channel with, when I checked, they were at 512 subscribers, and they've got a couple of project cars that they're working on. So one is an older Toyota Supra, and the other one is a Chrysler Conquest. And if you've never seen a Chrysler Conquest, very similar in style to a Supra of the day. So go over to their channel. I'm going to put their link in the description box below, or Grant will when we're done here. And you can go over and see what they've got going on. And they've also got some really cool merch. If you love sports cars from the 80s or sports cars from the 90s, they have t-shirts that say so. And I am so getting one. So make sure you go over and check out their channel and see what they're all about. They had a special guest appearance from Chewbacca in their last video, and you just never know what's going to show up on those guys' channel. So head on over there and check them out. Grant, who do you got this week?
Yeah, well, real quick on SNR Motoring, they are a channel that as I come up with ideas for channels I want to highlight, like I've probably got my next 2 or 3 weeks already planned out as things come to my mind. And so what I wanted to say about their channel is what I love about them is, so I think they're both parents, but they like do their wrenching at it's like 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. on Saturdays or something ridiculous like that, so they don't take away time from their family. And it's just something I just wanted to hat tip them for. I don't have a family at the moment, but I could very well see, you want to win in the margins. You don't want to give up your hobbies. So the sacrifices you go through to make sure you can make both things happen, I think, is something they should be commended for. But my the channel I'd like to highlight this week is Frank Finelli, and he was my last, I think he was my last guest on my Know Your Neighbors series. And Frank, he's a super big Mopar guy. He does have a couple second-gen Camaro videos on his channel, but I like to think of him like he's like a more relatable Dylan McCool channel. And it's not that Dylan McCool isn't a relatable guy at all. I think we all could see ourselves maybe being that, but also you see how he's blossomed and blown up, and you're like, man, I could never become Dylan McCool. But I think Frank's going to be that guy in only a matter of years. Just seems like one of us. Seems like a guy I went to high school with. So check out Frank Finelli Restorations on YouTube. He's a little over the 1100 clip, and he's one of my favorites. So with that, I do see we've had a couple questions come up in the chat, and Jason, I hope you've monitored. I've only caught 2, so hopefully you've caught maybe more than 2. But one person, and I didn't write down the name. It may have been Uzo Lo. Okay. Anyway, somebody asked if we were ever going to do longer live streams, and Jason, do you want to handle that one?
Yeah, I can field it because I know where your mind is kind of at with it, and I know that with us, it's a big thing with time. And as much as I think that we would really love to be able to sit and do an hour show, I just don't think that that is conducive to our scheduling and our lifestyle. Simply, we do know that everybody does have lives outside of YouTube, and it doesn't consume us 100%. You know, some of us are only about 95, but nevertheless, you know, to narrow out this half hour, I do look forward to this every week, and I know that Grant does as well, because we do talk back and forth quite a bit through the week, and we're not against having it go over the half hour by a bit, maybe by 5-10 minutes or something like that, if we get on a really good topic of conversation. But I think for now, the half-hour window really works well for us, and we likely will stay that way. And Grant, you can probably back me up on that. Maybe you have something you want to add.
Yeah, no, that pretty much encompasses it. And I think the other thing is, like, it's knowing that, hey, if I only have a half hour to catch it, like a lot of you guys, you have busy lives as well, but it's also like making it a little more of a wanted commodity. Like if we just went on for an hour and started losing interest in what we could talk about, I think it would devalue the good thing we have going on. I mean, I think we're doing a pretty good job. We're going to get to, I think, episode 10, Jason and I decided when we get there, we're going to kind of do more of a, this one's for the fans, like let you guys give us input. What do you like? What do you not like about the show? But we wanted to get enough of a data pool in there of what to expect, and then we can think about maybe tweaking it. Yeah, that's just, it's a time thing. Like it's easy to, I mean, Jason and I, we try to get on 15 minutes early before each live stream so we can kind of organize and make sure we're on the same page on this. So we spend more time than just half an hour as well. But the other question that came up was from Rust Belt Mechanic, and I do want to kind of ask him a question. But oh, Sam's Garage has just popped in. Welcome, Sam. He wanted to know if we were ever going to do a live meetup video, and just given the distance between Jason and I, that probably won't be possible. But if you've been following my channel, and I have an event scheduled for later this summer called Tube 66. It's meant to be a YouTuber meetup on Route 66. I think there's some opportunities there to potentially get some sort of we could do some live stream combined with that event, I think.
Yeah, and I've been talking a little bit about trying to do what I can to get down there. So for me to get down there in a timely fashion, I would likely have to fly and rent a car. So I might be the only guy driving a Chevy Cruze on this cruise in with a rental car down Route 66. But nevertheless, if I do make it, it would be awesome content and something fun to be able to do. At a different point in time, Grant and I had talked about roughly where the halfway point between Kansas and where I am in Eastern Canada. And I think we figured it was somewhere in Ohio, did we not, Grant?
I believe so. I think fairly eastern Ohio.
Yeah, so in Ohio, I know that's where Rust Belt is, as well as Eric the CarrGuy. And you're just north of Pennsylvania, not too far. I know there's a lot of guys in Pennsylvania. So, I mean, if guys wanted to make a day trip and have a long weekend out of doing something like that, I don't think it's conducive for us to do that this year, but in the future, most certainly I would entertain doing something like that and making a nice meetup trip, picnic, bar hop, whatever you want to do, and meet up with some guys, and there'll be an opportunity for everybody to grow off of each other's channels with those videos.
I also have, I think there's a decent amount of Kentucky creators out there too, so that'd be really close for them as well. But yeah, maybe that's a 2020 plan. And it looks like tonight's going to be one of those nights where we do spill over that 30-minute mark just a little bit. We will be taking maybe one more question. We'll do our sign-offs, our closeouts here in a bit. But I did want to, while I have the platform, while I have an opportunity to explain myself a little better than I was in the chat, for Rust Belt Mechanic, because I was in the live stream he did, I think Sunday, and I felt like I maybe dominated the conversation too much and sent his live stream maybe where he wouldn't want it to, and so I kind of wanted to apologize. But there's obviously definitely a dichotomy or a chasm between the weekend warrior mechanic like myself and a professional mechanic. And so what I was trying to wrap my head around was, someone made the comment like they pay $100 a week, a week, to a Snap-on or a Mac Tools or Matco Tools guy. And it's just an ongoing thing. And what I was really trying to ask is, at what point does that stop? I understand from a startup standpoint, it's sort of like a payment plan. It's like, I know that to build to fill up a whole professional size toolbox full of tools, like that's going to be a lot of money. That's going to take some time. But I just figured, like, if you were in the industry for even 5 years, I would think 5 to 7 years, at some point that would start to roll down. Like, I just can't wrap my head around that every year you would have to invest $5,200 into your job every year for the lifetime of your job. I was wanting to know, when was that break point? But they made it sound like it was a ongoing for the life of your job. That's what I think wasn't clearly explained. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Well, I'm sure that he'll answer you back in the chat. But in the meantime, I wanted to answer with my version of what I would say is that, first of all, I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a professional mechanic. I just think I'm very mechanically inclined. But doing what I do, you never stop buying those tools that you need, because there's a tool out there for every single job. And you don't have every tool for every job or for every vehicle, so you're always trying to add to that collection. And I just don't think that the job really ever ends of collecting the right tools. And I'm sure that Rust Belt can back me up on that. He says it does go down, but you know, the more you get, the better educated you get with your job, and the more experience you get, that you're still collecting tools, I think, throughout your whole career.
Yeah, and that's what I was after when I asked the initial question was, and I totally, again, I get that there's a whole nother investment level that you would have to put into a professional mechanic job that I can't wrap my head around. I get that, but it just seemed like maybe these salesmen have set up in some way a trap, and have, like, I feel like you probably don't cut yourself off of that payment plan as fast as you probably should. I think they probably have you by the, for the lack of a better term, nuts, better than you think, is what I was just afraid of. But again, my business is a whole different thing. I just can't imagine dumping 50 in order to keep the amount of money that I make, that my company would require me to spend $5,200 on my job at a year. But that's, again, that's that. So
yeah, and I don't think the company expects you to spend that. I think it's in a lot of cases, it's a personal preference thing to want to do that, to make your job or your life easier with the proper tools. When I was younger, I mean, I was in debt to the Snap-on guy for a long time, just because every time you come around, there was always something new. But you know, SNR says, 10mm sockets. I think the idea, hey, Sam's Garage has joined, he says hi. I think the idea behind that whole topic of conversation is that when you do get started, yeah, there's a huge investment in becoming a professional mechanic. And just like any job, like when we go to school, or when you go to school to become an engineer, for example, you've spent all your money up front in schooling, and it rewards you in the form of salary and job experience down the road. With mechanics, it's kind of the opposite. You don't spend a whole lot necessarily on the trade as far as the school goes, but to equip yourself to do the job, that's where a lot of the expense comes in.
That's a really good, I think that's a really good explanation or example to make. But that's, I mean, I think that's where we'll end it. Guys, thanks for, I don't know if we got to 30. I know I saw 29 in there. My wife tells me 30 from the couch under the heated blanket. And so thank you. But again, I can't, I think this whole concept is working out better than Jason or I could have ever imagined. We're thankful that you've made it. If this was your first time, thank you. If this is your 7th time, thank you even more, I think. But Jason, since you're not the host, the opposite, the co-host always gets to close out the episode. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. And, before we go again, I want to thank Grant for the opportunity. This really was his idea to start doing this. And like he said, it really is working out for us. And there's a lot of names that we see in this chat that are here every week for the last 7 weeks. And we hope that you're here on week 20 if it ends up going that far. So, thank you so much. As we do close out this live stream, you guys always know, if you watch my channel, at the end of every video, I end my video on a positive note with a quick little saying that goes a little something like this: stay focused on the windshield, not the rear view mirror. I love you guys. Let's do it again next week.